Welcome to the salubrious and very comfortable surroundings of Beggar's Banquet. I'm Andy Hollis, and I'm here with the producer of the cult's seminal album Love, and also the forerunner to Electric, which is being released next month, entitled Peace, Mr. Steve Brown. Alright, so how did it all begin with the cult? Because it feels like an unlikely marriage with the Wham's producer and then moving into the dark gothic world of the cult.
Yeah, okay, well it was actually moving out of the dark gothic rock and roll era into pop that was the strange one, and that was given to me by courtesy of the A&R guys at Phonogram at the time, who paired me up with ABC, and that got me George Michael and all the rest of it. So, but I am basically a recording engineer, that's where I come from, but worked on a lot of commercial projects. But previous to the pop thing, I was working with Thin Lizzy, Dire Straits, Graham Parker, bit of the Sex Pistols, bands basically.
So you're going back home again?
Yeah. And well, what happened was I got involved in the British pop scene, which was good because I learned quite a lot from it. But I wanted to go back to doing bands again, and that's how the cult and I kind of came together.
There's a story about a demo tape that went missing from someone's desk.
Yes, yeah. I was being managed by John Giddings, who also managed Steve Lillywhite.
White Festival, of course.
Yes, from the Isle of Wight Festival. But Steve Lillywhite, coincidentally, again, is a school friend of mine, and we ended up in the same agency, as you do. And something came in for him. It wasn't addressed to him, it just said Steve on the cassette thing. So I picked it up and just put it in my pocket and took it off. And that was the demo for She Sells Sanctuary, which I then chopped together and rearranged as such, and then took it into their rehearsal room and just said, do you want to check this out? Who are you? I'm Steve Brown, check this out. And that's how it all...
And this was with the cult rehearsal room? Yeah. What was it like when you first met them? I mean, they're interesting characters.
Well, no, I don't think they've really changed a lot. I think you'd be the same reaction. Is that Billy was kind of, who the fuck's this guy? And Ian was, hey, did you produce Wham? And George Michael, he was all really interested in the whole thing. So I don't think that would ever change. I think that's the two characters come. But I took a ghetto blaster in, and I said this. You know, do you guys want to be on top of the pops? Knowing what you know about me, do you want to be on top of the pops? And it was kind of, yeah, all right. And I said, well, this is what we should do. And I hit the button, and Billy said, that's one of our fucking songs. And I went, yeah, no, it's your song, absolutely your song. I've just chopped it around a bit, and this is what we should do on it. And they went, okay, let's give it a shot. And then I came to this building and had the meeting with the boss here.
Would we recognise that demo now if we heard it?
Yeah. From the guitar point of view, definitely. You know, it was what it was. It wasn't the actual demo of the Love album that I got my hands on. It was ideas, guitar ideas and riffs, and it was on the B side of a C90, which I bothered to actually play, and there it was. And the riff was to. Old man, take a look at my life, I'm alone. That's the melody that I deemed from that, and I thought that's a real hook, and I thought, well, that's worth pursuing. So.
When you get things like this, can you tell pretty quickly this is good, this has got something?
Yeah, I think it's instantaneous. I hate to say it, lyricist, but way before lyrics with me, it's the musical value of the whole thing. The vocal melody, yes, but I tend to get to lyrics about 10 plays in. I go, well, I suppose I better see what the song's about. You know, I'm hearing words, but I'm just more hearing melody and the vibe of the whole song. So
you kind of you had the meeting here, and then you decided to go into the studio.
Yeah, we went into the famous Olympic Studios, which is just down the road here, and recorded.
Just down the road.
It's still actually Kimsey's still got the basement going,
oh, right.
So it's still up and running.
Good.
In fact, I'm planning some recording there soon. But we went in the very famous Studio One, who have the spirits of Led Zeppelin and The Who and all those sort of Stones, etc. And we made She Sells Sanctuary with all its little mixes and things that went with it, and that we all got big approval from, and of course were allowed to go back into the studio to make the Love album. And as we did that, then She Sells Sanctuary charted, which was a great spirit for the album.
How developed were the songs when you went into the studio?
On the Love album, the advantage of the Love album was that we went to this fantastic little rehearsal room. I don't even know whether they're still running, but it was called Stanbridge's, and it was on the road down to Brighton. And they had this barn, and it was a very low-level Manor Studios. It had a barn and an accommodation, and a great family running it, and it was just such a great place to be. And I booked them into there, and we went systematically through everything they had, and did what we call, and it doesn't happen much these days I don't think, but it's called good old pre-production. So we actually made the album in our heads first. So in terms of, I cannot honestly tell you, some songs were at a great stage and some songs weren't at such a great stage, but we had to come away with 14 songs or something like that, and that's what we went in to do, and that's good old-fashioned pre-production, which I wish I had the luxury of nowadays. But
I mean, an awful lot of people don't really necessarily understand what a producer does. I mean, what was your role on the album? How hands-on did you get?
The role of the good old-fashioned producer really is that you don't let a band loose with your budget, and that's basically what it is. You find somebody that's lived in a recording studio for years and years and years and knows how it works, but also can have a good conversation about future trends and commerciality. You can talk to the marketing department basically and say, what do you think? What should we do? And you know, bad ones will say, oh, we don't know, just go and suck it and see, which is not a very good way to invest money. But a producer basically works between the public, the outside world, through the record company, and liaises with the artist. So it's pretty much hands-on. And we get the great opportunity, and I'm sure Ian will recognise this, particular, because I used to feel so sorry. We used to watch his face when he go, Ian, I don't really like it, can we go back and remodel? And he'd go off and start again with a melody or a lyric or something like that. But we get given that duty. We have to be honest and just say, look, I think this could be better.
Yeah.
You know.
And you were very hands-on with the process with Love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, did your visions clash much with the band? Or who wins?
On the Love album, if you're all talking about the same direction, and Ian's very good at setting up a vibe for an album. For instance, I walked into the control room when we were making the Love album, and I've got the desk in front of me, the control desk, and it's got a shelf along the top, and then you've got the speakers in the control room window out to the studio. He put on top of the desk here on the shelf a ram's head skeleton with pointing horns, okay, which is apparently the sign of the devil. But he decorated it with red roses and violets, so it looked beautiful. It looked fantastic, and he said, "This is the Love album," and that sat there the whole time.
And it kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's darkness and light in there.
Yeah, it's kind of evil light. Yeah, it is kind of like that a lot. But he set the and if you're working in those conditions where you're all playing the same game, then it's fantastic, because you can. It's not a case of, ooh, do you like this? It's a case of, look what I've just done, you know, and they go, fantastic, and then all the rest of it. And then Billy will come in and put some amazing lick over the top, and then Jamie is amazing as well. And then of course we have the great Mark Brzicki supplying all those beats. So no, I mean, it was a really happy album, I think.
You started off with Nigel on the drums, didn't you?
Yeah, Nigel Preston. He did Sanctuary.
Yeah. And then he had some personal issues.
He had some personal problems, let's put it that way, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but Mark was great. Mark, we all knew and loved, because he was part of. He was on the artist roster of the Cult's management team at the time, so they were stablemates. So there wasn't. It was a case of coming in and help us out, and he was great, actually. Yeah, really good.
And when you were recording Love, did you realise at the time, you know, wow, this is something special?
Well, Sanctuary was a great thing to come along, because I knew that was a hit, and in a way it was a blessing, and in a way it was a curse. And I'll start with the blessing. We did it. We recorded it. Everybody loved it. And it was well received, and we put it out, and it charted. You know, that's the blessing. On the other hand, we'd set the level really very, very high, and I knew it gives you a clue. You can't let people down now. You're just about to go and make an album. You just had a really fantastic single, you know, that wasn't rinsy sort of 80s pop music. It was a real rock record. And it had been successful in the charts, and they'd been on top of the pops. So I knew I had to come up with the rest of it, you know, whether they did or not. I'd been there before, definitely, all the way through the 70s and into the 80s. So we had to follow up with the whole thing. And that bit then becomes the Rain story, because Rain didn't even go to pre-production, really. It suddenly, we had a hit record, we were just going in the studio, and suddenly I'm thinking, they're going to want a follow-up any second now. And sure enough, the phone call came. And at the time, I just felt that Sanctuary needed a little sister. And that's how Rain came along. I said, guys, we've really got to work on a new song. And again, you know, Ian, but everybody worked really hard. It was good, because obviously I'm whipping them, you know, saying, you know, don't become complacent, you know, don't, please. Let's get the quality right up there. You know, Ian, I'm sorry, this song can't be about a boring businessman. It's got to be about something spiritual. And he chose The Rain, which was fantastic. So yes, I did know we were onto something special, but also I was heaving dynamite trying to get there. You know, we had to actually make something really special. I mean, there were little problem tracks in there. I can remember Hollow Man was a real problem. You know, I just couldn't really get it to work, and it turned out okay. But
do you like it now?
Yeah, I do. In fact, now the best thing about being a producer and 20 years is listening to the records, because you just forget loads of stuff, and you just think that's really good. That's well done.
Yeah. How long did the whole process take with Love?
I would say we were about 2 to 3 weeks in pre-production in Stanbridges, and then recording would probably be in the region of 12 weeks, I would think. I'm guessing, but that's over that period of time. That's how long I'd normally take with everything.
And that was down in farm, wasn't it?
Yeah. At Jacobs.
Yeah. What's the sort of hierarchy with decision making? I mean, did you have a say in the final track listing, and was it the label, producer label band?
It's all pretty much there's a democracy running through the whole thing, and I have people. I tend to try not. I tend to make it easy on other people to sort of come across as being slightly older. So therefore, if you don't mind me sort of being the chairman, I tend to get myself in that position, and then people can submit ideas. And so with the running order, it is always, come on guys, I want to see your running orders. You know, I do that with album titles, but it wasn't necessary with Ian around, because he's the man with the thought bubbles, and he just gets that going straight away. But running orders, stuff like that, you know, what goes on the album, what gets lost, is all, everybody gets asked. I get asked their opinion, and then I sort of sum it up from there.
How did the band dynamic work? Because they were just really sort of starting out, and obviously they've been the Death Cult and Dreamtime. I mean, obviously people think of the Cult, they think of Ian and Billy,
yeah.
But how was that marriage at that point? Was it still as you would see it now?
I don't really know what it is now. I would imagine, hopefully, it's the same. But it's very much a sort of Mick and Keith situation. They are two different people who have come together to create one whole thing. So if they know this more than anybody, if they went off and did solo stuff, same old story. They are the sum of the whatever it is. And so. And it's a working relationship. I would never sort of imagine ever seeing them disappearing down the pub together on their own. I don't think it's that sort of, it's not, you know, that type of friendship, brotherly in a different way, in a business way, if you like. But they definitely complemented each other very well. It was very easy to sort of work with.
And it felt like Jamie was kind of the glue
Yeah, he's forgive me, Jamie, but he's just like the spiritual. He's got a wise old man thing about him. Yeah. You know, he's a lovely young man, but he's got a very spiritual head and very intelligent. And this, I mean, you know, he's the sort of donkey in the field, if you like, and that's what you do when you've got two powerful stallions in a field. You put a donkey in there and they calm them down, sort of thing. I think that's how it goes anyway. So yeah, he'd be in a situation, and he's a very calming influence. So he's a glue in a way, yeah.
I mean, a lot of the really sort of hardcore fans love everyone loves a B-side. I mean, how close were tracks like Little Face to getting on the final record?
Again, my memory is a bit faded here, but again, it would have been a number of lists that came into me, and the less favourite tracks would have appeared in a margin down the bottom. So it would have been some sort of voting system to get it in or off. But every single track was cut with loving care, and we were sport for choice.
And you must still be incredibly proud of the album.
Well, extremely, really. Yeah, I mean, I have very proud moments with it. This Christmas, we were having a trackathon with my kids and their friends who are in their early 20s. And one of my kids had a band as well, and their drummer loved She Sells Sanctuary, and he said it was his turn to, and he played She Sells Sanctuary. And everyone, shh, Steve produced this, right? And, oh, really? And they listened, and it finished, and I got a big round of applause. And it's just like fantastic, you know. That generation appreciates it too. So I've had some really proud moments, and I put a lot of effort into it, you know, really, because
that track still is a dance floor filler.
Yeah.
I mean, if people, it really is. I mean, people still love that. It's timeless.
Yeah. Well, don't forget as well. This is very important that I'd just come off 2 or 3 years of British pop music, which was dance based. ABC, Wham, you know, Blue Rondo a la Turk. They were all sort of dance floor based pop music, and so I learned about the popularity of getting it. I wanted this band to cross over into that market, you know, and teach the kid, you know, this is a band. They go, oh, fantastic.
So they go off and they go onto the world tour, and they're becoming bigger and bigger. And then when they came back into the studio with you to record, what became Electric, was the idea that just more of the same?
Well. Bit of a cocktail when we first got together, because one, we didn't get any pre-production. We just had to go in and make it up on the spot. And when you're making stuff up on the spot, and you don't all have the same plot, it can get pretty difficult. But it's something that producers are employed to hold together. We have to hold that together. So the situation developed. I can't tell you what it was. I can tell you roughly now, in hindsight, what was in other people's heads. Particularly Billy. Billy, I think, just fell in love with America, and there's a massive rock market. It's a huge rock market, and he wanted to go and join that market. Ian couldn't tell you. Me, I'm going, oh my God, I've got a second album syndrome. And for those that you don't know what that is, it means that you've had such a successful first album. Although it wasn't their first album, it was my first album. And now I had to follow it, you know, and typically me, I thought we got to do our best here, we really had. It wasn't quite as easy to achieve, because, you know, you really need Ian's input here in terms of, he has to know exactly what, he'll be corrected, but once you got him running, it's fantastic. But I just didn't feel he was running at all, he was ambling, maybe, and maybe unsure. And so it was very difficult to sort of guide him for that sort of speed. It wasn't really that exciting. But you know, we had our moments. It just wasn't the same magic as Love. We had our moments, and I'm really actually quite happy the way the whole thing's turned out, because it's they've done what they wanted to do. They've been very successful. Where would they be if they'd have stuck with me? I think they'd have been just as successful, but very British. You know, it would have been sort of Morrissey or something, that sort of level, or the Smiths and Morrissey, that sort of area, and even the Oasis and that kind of thing, which makes it, they do just as well sales-wise in America, but they remain very British.
Okay, so with the Manor Sessions or the Peace album, was it quite a different vibe to Love, it sounds like?
Yeah, it was, yeah. Well, of course, you know, there'd been a whole tour and all the rest of it, and the producer and the artist get separated, and lessons are learned by either end. And we didn't get a particularly massive, as I say, pre-production period, which is where you sort of come back into the fold, and it's not so pre-production is a much more relaxed atmosphere because you're running over ideas and you can do it with a few beers. You don't have to be sober to sort of do pre-production. So there's a lot of bonding that goes on. Excuse me. So we didn't get the luxury of that pre-production, which was which can definitely affect. But we went in. We had a very nice surroundings. Richard Branson's manor, good food and everything, all the trimmings, and we went in and we made a go of it. Really. Just that it's a bit of this pre-production thing I keep going on about with bands is very important because it's at that point where you can say to Ian or Billy or the band, I think we can do a bit better than that. I really do think we can push this. But when you're burning, in those days, £1,200 a day, which is a lot of money, it's like flying into a storm. Do I keep going or do I turn around? What do I do?
Naval a bit nervous.
Naval, very nervous. So it was made in those conditions, and what you hear is what you get, and the decision was made at some point, probably by the American record label who were holding on to the Love album and going, look at this, it's happening, it's fantastic. Let's make it American.
I mean, were working styles different then as well? Because talking to Jamie, he was saying that Billy had worked during the day, but Ian was very much a nocturnal creature.
Yeah, well, but that was really for both albums. It's a long day for the producer and engineer on a Cult session because, Billy's a 9 till 5er and Ian's a 5 till 5. so many a time I slept in the control room on those sessions. You just can't be bothered. You just go crash, pass out. But that's the way it is. Billy likes to get his job done fantastically, and Ian likes the atmosphere of night time and turning the lights down and lighting candles and doing all that sort of thing.
Okay, so when the general consensus seems to be that when you talk to the band that they were in a slightly different place then, and that was part of the decision to go over to America.
Yeah, oh definitely. I mean, as I say, we didn't have the airlock of coming together and discussing stuff. I was fresh back from Australia. I'd just done 2 rock albums in Australia, and they'd been on tour in America, and so we were sort of. I remember picking Ian up, and I had a place in the country, and we went down there. Ian and I went down for a couple of days, and I remember we walked the dogs a lot, but I can't remember discussing music very much. But a lot of storytelling going on, and then suddenly we were in the studio. So it was a very different dynamic. And don't get me wrong, people do work like this, but I don't. I like really to know what's going on and to be able to, without running up great huge amounts of time and cost and work, to be able to go, that bit's really, really good, and that bit's really, really bad. So we need to make that bit as good as that bit, and it's as simple as that,
Was it hard for you? I mean, you put a lot of effort and a lot of love, and I know how much, you mentally and physically and everything put into these types of things. You'd been in lockdown at Richard Branson's manor for 3 months, and then it's like, oh no, we're going to go and do this with Rick. Frustrating.
It was, I've been in the music business since I was 17, and it's a cutthroat business, and so nothing really surprises you. You don't go, oh my God, how? Ian would probably admit this as well, that when you're in love, with each other, you're really in love, but when you're not, you're not. It's. When you've had a few beers after a session and you've got the lead singer with his arm around you going, I'll never ever work with anybody else, you're just amazing. You accept that and you go, beer talking, whatever. But you are, because you've been in the business for so long, no bad news is new news, really. Anything can happen at any time. And that works for the good things as well.
Were they right in hindsight?
Who can say they were wrong, really? I would say almost certainly that I don't know what was going to happen next, okay, but we would have almost certainly got to the stage where I'd be going, okay, everybody, marketing, everybody, what's the single? And at that point, which is a point I should have probably got to really quickly, at that point there would have been some head scratching going on. I think, really. And that's how I based my productions full stop with anybody I've worked with. You know, with the Manics, I produced 6 hit singles while making the album. Hit 6, you know. I make sure I've got as many singles as I can get going. So there was a point I knew I was kind of going, you know, what's the single? You know, where is it? And the question was just about to be asked. But before we got to that question, then another decision was made. And
listening back to it, do you still feel that?
Actually, no, I think it's... I wasn't very happy at the time, but now I listen back to it, I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy with the fact that it sounds like the Cult and Steve Brown.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good comment.
There's a lot of layers and texture.
Yeah, it was. You know, we had Love, and we did it that way, and then we got to start to make Love 2, and it got interrupted. But at least we got a little bit down, and it's a good comparison between the two things. And with everything, I respect everybody's opinion. Some people like what I did, and some people like what Rick Rubin did, and that's fine.
Do you like what Rick Rubin did?
Yeah. I don't like anything as much as the Love album, which sounds really pompous, but I really do like the tunes on that. You know, they're memorable, they're exciting. I just love the Love album, and I'm really happy that I've been involved in that, really.
Love feels like an influencer, whereas Electric, as it came out, feels influenced.
But that's a good observation. Yeah, Rick Rubin is a very powerful and influential producer, and he would have been pounding the American market down their throats every day.
I mean, it feels influenced by its by history. I mean, a lot of people, the British press was obviously had quite a difficult relationship with the guys, but they jumped on the AC/DC, the Led Zeppelin, which perhaps wasn't.
I see what you mean from that point. Well, that goes back to what I was saying. It's influenced by the American marketplace, which is a huge gem to capture. It's fantastic if you can get it. And one of the things that did disappoint me, I'm kind of thinking, why are you jumping in with that lot? You know, they've got all these fantastic bands that actually some of them are a bit better than you guys, but you know, but I love you guys. But why didn't you just stay and be the Who or the Stones or the Zeppelins or the sort of thing, and remain British in a way?
Could you have produced if they turned around to you and said, we want to strip it down, we want to do a much more ballsy, aggressive rock album, which is what it turned out to be.
Yeah.
Do you think you could have done that?
Would I have wanted to do it? No. Could I have done it? Yes. I'm a born recording engineer. I can do anything. Invincible. But you know, big drum sounds, very sparse rhythm guitar, one lead guitar, punchy bass lines. You know, big fat drum sounds. Sure, but I mean, I've never been one to actually follow. I've always sort of been a little bit ahead and leading.
So it feels like you don't think it was the right direction, or for you anyway.
Well, no. Listen, in terms of selling records, fantastic. You know, absolutely fantastic. In terms of, I don't know. I'd love to sit down and ask Billy and Ian what they think in reflection. Honestly, you know, in a quiet room on our own. That would be, but what purpose is that question serving? Really, it's just an interesting question that I wouldn't want anybody else involved in. You know, what do you think? What do you think life would have been like?
Would you have done it differently now, though? I mean, if we took you back,
I almost certainly would not have gone. You know, guys, we've got a busy schedule. We've got to be back on the road. We've got to do this and this. You've got to get in the studio. I'd have gone. Not with me, you're not. I want the band for 2 or 3 weeks here. I want them in here. We need to do cassette demos, which is holding a couple of mics up. We need that period of time, which is a very important period of time, to actually set the map going. You know, this is a song. This is great. We've really got a winner here. We need to use this, guys, and draw down on this, and let's have another one down here like it. So then we can marry this lot up into here. That's how it happens. And then it all comes together. And there it is, the album, the entity. And that wasn't happening. That wasn't. We didn't have the occasion to do that.
Would you like to work with them again?
It'd be very funny. It would be very funny. And that's. I mean, I can't honestly say I'd go into a meeting with them and say it's just a different dynamic completely. We're there just to let's go and have some fun. Let's go and have some fun with some music. Yeah, it'd be fantastic. We'll do this ridiculous drum sound of it. It'll be fantastic. I've always wanted to try this with you, and da-da-da-da. It would not be under any means the same sort of pressure. It'd be very light, and I can see everyone laughing a lot, you know, and just having some fun. And I'd love to have, not a regret, it's just that I know they had so much fun on the road. I'd love to have been there for them then. They did some amazing things for me here when we broke out the album, and I had flu, and I was in a bit of a mess, but they were playing Hammersmith Odeon and it was like the big one. And 3,500 people, all Cult fans. It's not this big stadium thing, it's just amazing atmosphere. So I wrapped myself up and ended up on the side of the stage. It was only actually up the road from me, so it wasn't too much effort. And Billy looked and saw me and sort of said hello, and looking around I could see all the people out there. And then Ian saw me and blah, blah, blah. And they finished the track they were doing, and they said, I'd like to introduce you to the 5th member of the Cult. You know, this is Mr. Steve Brown. And the spotlight came in, and I'm all wrapped up in scarves and what have you. And they went mad. And we're dedicating this track to you. And they pointed at me, and they started She Sells Sanctuary. That was just how it fell. And that was just amazing. You know, that was a truly, I'll never ever forget that. And just an amazing thing. And that, you know, being on the road, goes back to the question, regrets. I didn't go on the road. Being on the road as a producer is like it's complete holiday, because you know, you don't get mobbed, you don't get pushed around, but when Billy turns around and goes, oh, by the way, this is Steve Brown, he produced the album, then you know, everyone, your attention's on you, and you don't have to work, and you can have beers with them, and all that sort of thing.
You could have almost got into the pre-production with them, because I think a lot of, I was speaking to Jamie, a lot of the material for Peace Electric was being considered and written on the road.
Yeah. Well, when I got to it, the only thing that we got was Electric Ocean, which we immediately snapped up, and I took into the studio just outside Montreal. I flew out there straight away, and we got that. But that was about it, really. But definitely, what you've got to understand with this second album syndrome is that while the band are out there playing these toilets, in soundcheck, they've got years to write an album, okay? That's where it happens in sound checks. You know, Billy will come up with a riff, Ian will start yodeling over the top, and that's good. Did you get that? Yeah, they got cassettes building up and all the rest of it for years. Second album, it's like sound check. You know, you might be supporting. You're off the stage. It's all chaos. You're famous, and it's just not the same. So that material doesn't build up at all, and therefore, when you come to record, you haven't got quite the sort of bag of sweeties that you had on that first album thing.
You said there was quite a rock and roll moment when you were recording Electric Ocean.
Ian, bless him to death, was into his Second World War thing. He loves reading, and he's a historian. And unbeknown to me, he'd found in Oxford, he found an army surplus store. And he'd been in there with his royalties, and he bought a load of stuff. Anyway, so I'm sitting. I just got up, as I say, it's a long day, and I'm sitting overlooking the lawn at the manor, the sweeping lawn with the trout pond and the swans and all the rest of it. And through the hedge at the bottom of the lawn comes this guy marching towards me, and I thought, it's a fucking stormtrooper. There's a stormtrooper, and I froze because I didn't know what to think. It's one of those weird moments. I thought, there's a fully clothed stormtrooper walking straight towards me, and he got closer and closer and closer, and I kind of recognised Ian's walk, and I went, Ian, and he's just a big grin came in. He's got the goggles on, he's got the stormtrooper's helmet, he's got the jacket. It was hilarious. But yeah, he loved dressing up, Ian. He loved it, absolutely. Very funny.
He's got his own clothing label now.
I didn't know, no, but no, he loved the military at that time.
Yeah,
and he's given me some great stuff which I've treasured, really. Yeah.
So, any other stories of
not that I can tell.
No.
We have a pledge, a vow of silence, like doctors, producers. But no, we had some. We always humour was a great part of everything. You know, it broke through. I noticed that our dear friend Brian Asprey and his brothers launched some photographs of me at the manor in dressing up mode, and it was all humour was always used to punch through a lot of stuff.
Brian, who
Brian
designed
of
this
the
T-shirt.
Holy Barbarians.
Yes. Old dog.
Old dog.
I think is.
Hi, Brian. Humour. Yes, the humour thing. So a lot of laughs. It was to keep everything the air light. Serious discussions, sure, but nobody broke anybody's noses. You know, it was I was had happy memories of it's great surroundings and a great studio. Just maybe the wrong time at the wrong place at the wrong time, shall we say? But everything's turned out wonderfully.
That sounds like a lovely place to finish it.
Yeah.
So thank you to Beggars. Thank you to Julia.
Julia.
Hi,
Julia.
Hello, Julia. And here we are. Go and get the album. And thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Shit.
You're welcome.